Let's start with a roll call. Looks like we have perfect attendance this morning. That's fantastic. Great to see so many faces here. All right. Are there any disclosures of interest? Seeing and hearing none. Let's go with the minutes for 3.1.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you're going to move it? I thought you were interrupting me. So let me get that out. We're at item 3.1. This is the minutes from January 10th. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're of one mind. Yes. Okay. Moved by Tito, seconded by Marilyn. All in favor? That's carried. All right. Now there's no public meetings. Let's jump into our presentation. 5.1. We've got Andrew and Peter talking about the transition to extended producer responsibility.
All right. Good morning, members of Works Committee and Visiting Council. Today I'm Andrew Evans, the Director of Waste Management Services for the region, and with me this morning I have Peter Vega, Manager of Operations. This morning we're going to be just giving an update on the Durham's transition to extended producer responsibility, as well as the update to our organics program changes. So, as we've been talking about for a number of years now, July 1st, the region moves from a region-operated program into the extended producer responsibility model. And this coincides with the planned relaunch of our green bin program to extend the amount of materials coming into the program. The changes are set out under the Blue Box Regulation OREG 391/21, and this is under the Resource Recovery and Circular Economy Act. So what this does is the Act establishes extended producer responsibility frameworks for designated products in Ontario. There's several products that have already transitioned, notably tires, hazardous waste, batteries, and some electronics. This change is bringing the responsibility for blue box recycling from municipalities to producers. So municipalities will no longer be financially responsible or operationally responsible for the collection, processing, or marketing of these materials. The producers under this must meet material collection targets. There's a phase-in over 3 years. So at the end of 2025, January 1st, 2026, the program will be rolled out across the province, and all 8 Durham municipalities transition July 1st, 2024. So just to show quickly how the model differs. So under the current model, consumers put their product out into the recycling stream. Local government municipalities collect and market the material to producers, which theoretically then bring those materials into new products, as well as the transfer payment back of 50% of the program costs back to the municipalities who operate the program. So, and that's a nominal 50%. There is, obviously costs that aren't totally captured under this. And the concept behind the regulation is that the producers, by becoming responsible for this, have the competitive advantage to increase the amount of materials recycled. They can react to markets faster as they're bringing new products to market. And there should be a competitive advantage there for those who recycle better, divert better. The risk, of course, is that producers could pass these costs along to the consumer. So based on this, so Durham will be a producer under this program based on the amount of materials we send out to our residents. Water bills, waste collection calendars, a lot of things that we have gone digital with, but we do meet the threshold, which is about 9 tons of paper product. So while we're above that number, we will participate as a producer in the program. The regulation sets out a number of roles and responsibilities. So the program is governed by the Resource Productivity and Recovery Agency, or RIPRA. They set out the targets to producers, as well as oversee the producer responsibility organizations, which are basically groups of producers that have come together to perform the collection services. The pros are the entities responsible for providing the service, and this can be via contract with private or municipal waste providers. So in Durham, this will move to our existing collection contractors. Also, they're responsible for public education and data reporting. So this means that we'll lose insight into some of our waste diversion numbers. This isn't overly concerning to us. We've been looking to this transition for a number of years. Certainly the type and amount of material have changed over the years, so a lot less newspaper. Plastic bottles have gotten lighter. So really the diversion number that we were reporting 20 years ago, 30 years ago at the beginning of this program has changed in a lot of ways. So within the long-term waste management plan and our key indicators, we moved to a waste generation per capita, which we feel more accurately reflects the consumer patterns at this point. There are some changes to eligible sources under this program. The regulation sets out quite prescriptive rules. So Durham currently doesn't collect from schools, retirement homes, and public spaces. These locations do become eligible sources under the transition, and that's once it's complete, so January 1st, 2026. Additionally, any multi-residential units that currently do not receive municipal collection will become eligible sources at this time. Continued services to single-family homes, seasonal residences, and multi-residential buildings which are currently receiving service. And then the other piece is there's a removal of some areas. So any industrial, commercial, or institutional sources, including our BIAs, as well as the region's waste management facilities. So during the transition period, Durham Region will be paying for the BIAs to receive Blue Box collection, and the approach post-January 2026 hasn't been determined as of yet. So in terms of the key messaging for residents, is that there's no changes at this point to what they're seeing at the curbside. That will happen. Any changes would occur after 2026. Miller Waste and GFL will still be collecting the material under contracts with Circular Materials Ontario. So the collection days, accepted materials will all remain the same. And the materials are then allocated and divided into fractions based on the various pros. So this constitutes our key messaging to residents, that there is no change at the curb. The big piece that will change for residents is that they'll have to contact different entities potentially for any complaints for missed service, any broken bins, which will no longer be the reason. So they'll be reaching out to their collections contractors at this point. And then again, following 2026, once the municipalities aren't operating, the pros are free to change the program as they see fit. So with this, we'll be running transition communication changes and programs. So this is going to run approximately May to mid-August. We've already updated the website with transition information. We'll be doing across our multimedia, so digital, radio, television, email, e-newsletters, and social media channels. We'll also be looking at stickering blue boxes at some point during the runs, just so residents have that new contact information once it's available, as well as, of course, updating the app. Additionally, for our spring events, we'll be handing out postcards advising residents of the upcoming changes and other community events. Just to talk about the contractual changes, I'll turn it over to Peter.
Thank you, Andrew. So as Andrew mentioned, we've been planning for this change for a number of years now. As back as 2017-15, right after the act was enacted in 2016, we started planning our collection contracts and timing them so that the recycling portion of our site collection programs, our multi-residential collection programs, and our contracts for recycling collection in Whitby and Oshawa, so that they time out on our transition date. So that work has been done. Also, contractual changes for our MRF also. We've made some changes with that contract, and I'll talk about that in a minute. That being said, there are still some contracts that still need to be changed and entered into, and you will be seeing some reports in the near future, starting with the next Works Committee with some directions, some requests and recommendations for going forward on those contracts. Regarding the MRF, one of the biggest questions is what happens to this asset once we transition out of the Blue Box program. Does it become a stranded asset, or is there a use for it in the new program? We quickly saw that there was going to be a need for this asset under the new program. The pros, as they develop their new system in Ontario, will need existing infrastructure until they develop the new programs and the new infrastructure. New infrastructure requires time for planning, design, and construction, and we saw they would need the existing infrastructure during that time. So what we've done in this existing contract, and their most recent contract, is do a hybrid model where until our transition date, the contractor will operate and maintain the MRF for the region under the region's Blue Box program. And then on July 1st, that contract transitions into a lease where the operator will operate and maintain the program for the MRF for the new program for a 6-year term. And that coincides with the first term of contracts that the pros have put for their existing contracts, and that takes us to 2030. So this asset will continue providing a benefit to the region during that time. Durham Region's materials collected under the new program will continue going to Durham Region MRF in Whitby. The MRF will act as a transfer station for our material. It will also receive material from Hastings area, because under the new program, Durham Region and Northumberland are a single catchment area. So we will be receiving some material at this MRF for processing at this MRF during this lease operation also. So some of the contractual changes we are looking at doing going forward is, as Andrew mentioned, even though we're a municipality running the Blue Box program and getting out of the Blue Box program, because we produce water bills and collection calendars and a lot of paper materials, and we put that into the market, that also gets recycled in the Blue Box program. So that makes us a producer. So we have entered into a contract, a 1-year contract with CMO, Circular Materials, to participate as a producer. We will also be looking to enter into a contract with Circular Materials to sort of piggyback onto our existing P&E program, promotion education program, using our app, the Waste app, our school curriculum program, and a lot of our channels to continue messaging the Blue Box message. Instead of having two distinct programs and adding cost, they will be able to piggyback onto our existing network and services to continue that messaging. To provide continuity for our residents, we have offered to Miller Waste and to GFL the use of My Durham 311, so that when residents under the new program get a missed collection or a broken Blue Box or whatever service issue they might have, they can continue calling My Durham 311. And that it will help that transition be seamless to residents. Those discussions are ongoing. We don't have a contract yet, but we have put that offer forward, and we'll await more discussion more news as that discussion progresses. We are looking also at the future of waste management facilities. For decades, we've accepted Blue Box material at the waste management facilities. We would like to continue offering those services. We are in discussions with CMO now to see if we can continue offering those services under contract to CMO. If not, we will look at putting together a contract to provide that service outside the Blue Box program to continue that service continuity for our residents. Because it's especially small businesses with large cardboard that is hard to put at the curb. We find that most of the material that we collect Blue Box recycling at the waste management facilities is large cardboard. We have compacting equipment there for that, which makes it easier for small businesses, particularly to recycle their cardboard as opposed to putting it at the curb. We're looking at a new distribution program for Blue Box and green bins, not Blue Boxes, but green bins throughout the region. One of the issues of getting out of the Blue Box, particularly in Whitby and Oshawa, is that GFL was our distribution provider for new green bin kits for new residents. Once we're out of the Blue Box program, no longer have a contract with GFL, we no longer have that distribution network. So one thing that you'll be seeing at the next Works Committee is a recommendation for a third-party service where residents can call 311, order the green bin kits, and this third-party service will deliver green bin kits to the residents of Whitby and Oshawa. Miller will continue providing the green bin kits to new residents throughout the rest of the region in the contracts that they service. And this new service would also provide a service where residents can call in and buy a new green bin, exchange a green bin, and that green bin would be exchanged at their house by their next collection day. So that is a service that we're looking to provide, and you'll see a recommendation in the next Works Committee. The battery collection. Getting out of the Blue Box program also has impacts on the battery collection because until now we've collected the batteries with the Blue Box. Now that we're out of the Blue Box program and out of those contracts, we don't have an option to collect them with the Blue Box anymore. So we are looking at options, alternative options for collecting these batteries to continue the battery curbside program. One of the options is to collect them with the green bin, but we don't provide the green bin service in Whitby and Oshawa. So we are in conversations with staff at Whitby and Oshawa to see if there's an opportunity for Whitby and Oshawa to collect the batteries with the green bin. We're also looking at other options. So you'll see some recommendations shortly also. And finally, BIA servicing. For years, we've provided recycling collection to our small businesses in our BIA areas, and there's also a list of other businesses throughout the region that are not in BIA areas. Not all local municipalities have BIA areas that we've been servicing. We have been successful in contracting with Miller and GFL to continue providing the Blue Box program in those areas to those small businesses during the transition period. So from July 1st, 2024 until December 31st, 2025, they will continue providing that service. And we are in talks with CMO and other entities looking at options to see what the viability and the options are for continuing providing that service after January 1st, 2026. So you'll be seeing a report regarding that also in the next Works Committee. So on to the Enhanced Green Bin Program. This is the largest change to the Green Bin Program since we launched it about 20 years ago. So starting July 1st, 2024, we have the ability to expand the materials that the Green Bin accepts. That will now accept diapers, adult incontinence products, personal sanitary products, pet waste, pet litter, and other materials that currently are not accepted in the Green Bin, and residents have to hold on to in their garbage for 2 weeks. We've entered into a contract with a company called Seacliff Energy. They're in Elmira. They're a wet AD anaerobic digestion facility, and they have the capability to accept all these materials. That contract starts July 1st, and it's a 10-year contract, which allows us to expand the Green Bin Program. So our Green Bin Program will now look like the City of Toronto's, accept the same materials, and York Regions also. So, Seacliff Energy has been processing City of Toronto materials. So they have experience in this for quite a while. We're confident that this contract will be successful and we'll be able to successfully divert this material from our garbage stream. Under the new program, residents will continue requiring to use 100% compostable bags. With the launch of the program in 2024, we're looking forward with the ban of single-use plastics. So we did have a debate whether we continue using internal debates at the staff level, whether we continue using 100% compostable bags or whether we just let residents use regular plastic bags anyways. But with the ban of single-use plastics, residents will have to buy some sort of liner bag anyways. They're already buying 100% compostable bags, which nowadays are pretty much the same price as polyethylene bags. So we decided to continue this requirement. This has a couple of benefits. One is no change to the residents. The other one is on the processing side. These bags, once they go into the anaerobic digestion facility, the front end takes out most of this plastic out, but any bits of plastic that don't get taken out and end up in the process will break down in the process. So the net result is this process will not introduce plastics into the environment. So we see that as a benefit. We also see a benefit that a lot of the residents who currently don't participate in the Green Bin Program, some of them don't say they don't participate in the Green Bin Program because they're processing their organics on site. Either they have a backyard composter or they live in a rural neighborhood where they can they can process their organics on their properties. With this program, we see an expansion of these users because obviously they can't process diapers and incontinence products and this other materials at home. So these will be new users to the program, new additional tonnage, new diversion to the to our program, and material that historically has gone for disposal at DYC that will now be diverted from the garbage stream. And it's also an enhancement to the service program, because where residents were holding on to this material for 2 weeks, this odorous materials, and we do get complaints about, often about complaints about going to back to weekly garbage collection because of these odorous materials. We can continue with bi-weekly garbage because these odorous materials now can be disposed of weekly in the green bin. So it's also a service enhancement. So as with any program change, we need a communication plan. And with same as with the Blue Box change, we will have an advertising campaign across all of our channels. We will be updating the Note Before You Throw tool, so residents can type in their materials in the tool, and it'll tell them to put it in the green bin. We'll be updating the app, the Whitby Waste app also. Durham, Oshawa, and Whitby will also be updating their waste management pages. We'll have print material handed out at all of the events that we participate in, also at National Public Works Week. And we'll also have FAQs for members of council, so any residents that might call your offices asking about the changes in this program, what does it mean for them, what goes in the green bin, and how to participate. If you get any of those calls, you'll have the information to provide with them also. And we'll be doing the same thing with the Blue Box changes also. So if any resident calls you about Blue Box changes, you'll have that information at hand also. And that's the end of our presentation.
Hey, thank you very much. Certainly exciting times when it comes to waste. Okay, great. So first on the list is Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you walk me through, I realize there's no change to the resident, regular schedule, all that kind of stuff, right? But can you walk me through what happens after the blue bin is picked up? It's going in the same truck. How does that, like, is it just that the producers are now contributing to the cost of recycling, or is there more to that?
So
Because in my mind, I go, oh, this is Durham Region, this goes in that bin, and that goes in this bin, and this goes, like, we don't have to do any of that, right? It's still paper in one
Yep.
and everything else in the other. Like, so there's no inconveniencing the resident.
For now, that could change post 2026, of course. So right now, it will be in the same trucks. It will still go to our MRF. The change will happen at the MRF, where instead of processing all of the material, each pro has to process their own material. So for some pros, they've contracted with our MRF for processing, which will be operating under the contractor who's leasing the facility from us, whereas others haven't. So that material will be operating more like a transfer station, where it will come into the MRF, and then instead of being processed and sorted for markets, it'll just go back onto a different truck for processing elsewhere.
So it is sorted.
It will still be processed at some point and sorted to marketable quality. Just whether that occurs at the MRF or not is inconsistent depending on which pro gets that share.
Right.
So I think it works out, the largest pro has about 80% share, the other two have about 20%. So depending on how those contracts align, there's going to be material shipped to different locations.
Okay, thank you. So to the green bin, can you just talk to me about, so as a pet owner, I'm going to be using now compostable bags for my dog's waste. A diaper, like, how does that break down? I mean, I'm basically picking it up and putting it in the garbage. Diaper has a whole bunch of other components to it. So how does that break down?
So pre-processing is of critical importance to AD facilities. So in this case, the facility has what's called a hammer mill. So it pulps and grinds that material into sort of a paste. And what happens there is, so the organics will continue out into the process, whereas any of the plastic components will be kind of taken off the front end before it goes into the digester. As Peter mentioned, some plastic will get through, So that's where it becomes important to continue to use those compostable bags as that material breaks down further. There's also post-processing cleanup, as a lot of this material, once it's completed, does become land applied.
Okay. So in the case of dog waste, then what happens if a resident doesn't use it?
Theoretically, the plastic bag will be squished, torn open, and then
Ugh.
recovered at the front end of the facility,
Okay.
so it doesn't go into the
But we don't
digester.
leave it there,
Okay.
right? But we don't leave it on the front lawn, right? Like we're not doing that, right? Like it just gets put into the truck and then it gets figured out when it gets there, right? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm actually very excited about this. I know the town of Ajax is looking at a program for our pet waste in the park systems, and hopefully we'll be able to take our collections to wherever you're putting them to be trucked out because because there's a lot that happens in the garbage of your own parks and areas, right? So hopefully we'll be able to work with the region on that one. But thank you. I'm very happy about this. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we've got our vice chair, Tito.
Thanks, Chair. Some of that stuff doesn't really make me squeamish. I worked at Duffett Creek, so I'm pretty prepared for it. I just wanted to ask about some of the things that do make me a little concerned, which is beginning with the communication strategy. And that's just to get everything on the table to make sure through you, Mr. Chair, that we understand what the cost of the strategy is and if we've isolated the main changes, because I think that's probably going to be the biggest sort of concern or question now that we're transitioning, because it is the largest or the most significant transition in 2 decades. What specific elements are we going to be focusing on for the transition, and can we, do it in a way that's I don't want to use streamline or cost effective, but I think going into a budget year like ours, to isolate those things and maybe do things differently so that we anticipate the trend and also save some money would be great. Just through you, Mr. Chair.
So through the chair. So certainly we have looked at and are continuing to look at what the impact of various media strategies are. We do retain a budget for education within the program, and so what we'll be doing is just focusing the existing program messaging on these transition kind of through that period. So no real impact to budget.
Okay. I just wanted to ask, from the standpoint of the 2 municipalities that essentially do not have a solid waste collection contract with the region of Durham, but do it independently, how did those discussions, because I know that it was mentioned that a number of contracts still need to be brought to committee and council to be able to, sort of get cleaned up and assessed and then approved. Just wondering at, what point or what stage some of those remaining contracts happen to be from those 2 municipalities.
So we meet regularly with Whitby and Oshawa staff, and this has been kind of under discussion for a number of cycles on that. So they're well aligned for to address the communication points. As to the specific changes in terms of the battery collection, the distribution,
Right.
Discussions are ongoing. Certainly recognize a number of resourcing constraints across all 3 parties, and so we're looking at what the best way to continue to deliver those services is.
And just to be open and transparent, I know that we talked about GFL. We've had providers in the past from other entities. The new contract, is it predicated on the current provider, or is this going to be this new provision, this new rollout, going to be re-tendered and essentially contracted to whomever the best provider would be?
So during transition, the CMO as the program operator has opted to re-contract with Miller and GFL separately. Beyond the transition period, I believe they will be going out to a competitive procurement. That's what they've done in other jurisdictions, but really we'll have no input in that once we're out of the program. If that answers your question.
Yeah, and what would, just remind me, the transition period, the end of the transition period would be?
December 31st, 2025.
So it's nearing.
Yeah.
And so we would have no input into who they choose?
No.
At that point, through you, Mr. Chair, just brought something to mind. That's kind of why you're saying that, things could sort of change in what you put in your box and what doesn't. Is there something that we can do as part of this approval or process to at least ensure that even if we don't have input at that point, that they know what our requirements are and our standards are now, so that we don't have that communication cost and sort of, human impact to people who are used to doing things one way and then suddenly it changes?
So the regulation sets out kind of some materials that are put in place, but there hasn't been any communication as to what they may change. But certainly, other jurisdictions collect. In some cases it's biweekly. Some have transitioned to carts, so it's those type of program changes. And the communication for any of those changes would be the responsibility of CMO and the pros. Should they opt to make those changes in the future.
Their responsibility. But we get the calls.
We get the calls, and they'll be, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, just through you, Mr. Chair, just complete my train of thought here with respect to the changes. It sounds like no changes materially for the homeowner or for the user until 2025 sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then we don't know what the changes will be.
Correct.
So I just wanted to put it out there through you, Mr. Chair, that to staff, if we could find a way to include some provisions or standards that we consider to be important and effective for homeowners or users at our end to prevent any issue in 25 because we won't have input at that point, then I think it's prudent and it would save us money and a lot of hassle, because we would get those calls. And I know staff's put in a lot of effort because this is a huge change. I just want to see if we can anticipate some of the impacts.
Yeah, and we will still continue to advocate, at AMO and other levels on a number of these factors. But the level of control we have at this point is, fairly diminished. Perfect example is kind of how conversations surrounding the BIAs have gone. They've allowed co-collection during the transition period. After that period, they're not going to permit co-collection, which means it'll be if we're going to continue to provide those services, it'll be a new truck on the road, completely new service.
Okay. So, thank you very much, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And thank you for those good points. Next, we've got Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you. Just a couple areas I wanted to address. Is it possible for staff to provide us with a cost analysis outlining what our traditional costs are going to be, what the transition costs, and what the post-transition costs are going to be? The reason I ask that is this was sold to me that the producers are going to pay for this. Sounds to me we're still paying for a hell of a lot of it.
There certainly is cost savings to the region. We just was looking at the budget this morning. This year in particular is complicated, as we're going to be operating the program for half the year and then under the new model for the second half of the year. In reality, pre-transition, we were getting a nominal 50%. I think we would argue that it was in most cases less than 50%. That cost still does goes away. So the collection contracts, the processing contracts, which were the larger line items in the budget, do go away. But there is these other pieces that we'll have to look at picking up. And we're still working out the cost impact of that as these various agreements are negotiated.
The transition communication cost, is that being paid 100% by the producers?
That is largely going into our existing promotion education budget.
But we don't do this job anymore.
We won't be doing it after this.
Then
One of the agreements with the producers is to continue to provide promotion education material through our app, and we'll be receiving funding from them for that. But you're correct. We will still be incurring some of these education costs ahead of the transition date.
Why aren't they paying for all of it? It's their transition. It's not ours.
I don't have an answer to that question.
Who does?
Ramesh, you can take it or I can. I think the case here is we could demand that they pay for it, but in the end, the miscommunication, like what we've all said here before, is ours. So if this isn't communicated very well, then the calls are going to come to council, to regional staff, just like they always have. So I think if we communicate this really well once, and transfer the responsibility of recycling onto who it belongs to in the future and cut ties with that, with the ownership of those programs, that's the best way to do it. And if we do it really well, that'll be a more efficient transition. If we fight over who's going to pay for it, it'll probably cost us more in the end. That's my take on it, Councillor Nicholson. You might have a different one.
Well, my question is, this was sold to the taxpayers as we're getting out of the business. Doesn't seem like we're getting out of the business. We're just being apologists for the producers now. We're going to answer all their questions. We're going to do their communications. We're going to make sure our 311 system can respond. If somebody calls on Blue Box, they should be given the phone number of the producers. I'm not going to answer the producers' questions. It's not my program. I'm not running it. I have no control over it. And I don't want to send it to 311. They got enough on their plate. So my question is, well, if they're going to put new Blue Boxes out saying they're, why doesn't it have the producer's number, a contact number on every Blue Box? So you can look at it and call them. See, my concern is, we were not going to be doing this service, but it sounds like we're keeping the MRF. They weren't going to pay for a portion of that. We're trying to negotiate collections with local tiers and the regional tiers. The way it was sold to council was that we are no longer going to be in the Blue Box collection business. So why aren't we out of it now? Why aren't we transitioning not to continue our participation, but to actually leave the process?
So I think Andrew's going to take that one.
So if I can speak to 311, so that negotiation is ongoing. So if that is agreed, 311 would be compensated by GFL and Miller to provide that service. So it would be a fee for service for the transition period. With respect to the MRF, that contract has moved from us paying the producer, us paying the contractor to operate the MRF on our behalf, to them paying us for the lease of that facility, which I think speaks to your point of how we're getting out of the business. We're just still divesting ourselves of some of the assets and trying to retain those values where we can. But there are certainly pieces during the transition where communication is of critical importance to the residents. But should for example, the 311 agreement not move forward, at that point it would be here's the number for Miller or GFL or the producer, depending on who's responsible for the call center, and that's where our staff would be directing the response.
All right. When we get calls at the 311 center regarding Blue Box, are we going to track the number of calls and charge them equivalent per call percentage? For example, 15% of the calls are Blue Box. Are they going to pay for 15% of the call center?
That would have to be through corporate services and 311. I doubt we would be able to collect a fee for where a resident calls the wrong, essentially the wrong number. They should be contacting someone else. I doubt we'd be able to collect a fee for that.
So we're going to become the apologist for the producers.
I mean, I think it would be a transfer function to here is where you should be going, and to take that. But certainly, if the transition doesn't go well, I expect yes, we will be getting calls and complaints. In the jurisdictions it has transitioned so far, it's been a relatively positive news story. Things have gone smoothly, and we hope that's certainly the case for Durham. And we've been preparing for a number of years for this. But there's always chances of things going off the rails, I suppose.
My biggest concern in this process is that they're going to nickel and dime us to death. We're going to provide this and X and Y and Z, and before we know it, we're spending the same money with no control, as opposed to right now we have control. So I want to just leave that with you, because I really would like to see it, so I can explain to my residents how much money I'm saving with this. Because it sounds like to me we're spending the money we're saving from this on new things. And my question is, that was not how it was sold. It's supposed to be a savings to the taxpayers. If we start spending it on other things, the question comes down to it, why are we doing it? Like, what's the point?
So I'll give this one to Ramesh.
Yeah, please.
Through the chair to the councillor, just as a follow-up to that question, we do have our budget report and presentation coming next week. Sorry, not next month, sorry, in March. So as part of that, we'll make sure that there's some preliminary insights into cost savings and cost implications, but details may have to wait until closer to June.
All right, no, that's fair, and I'm just raising the flag right now to say, look, we have to be able to explain why we're doing this, you know? I'm assuming that as we transition through the process, we're still gonna be responsible for putting blue boxes out to the community?
I believe that was answered in the presentation, but go ahead.
It was unclear though, so I'm asking.
No, that responsibility goes to the producers.
And when will they start handing out blue boxes?
July 1st.
Of this year?
Yep.
All right. That may solve a problem I raised with Ramesh about tenants not getting blue boxes in single-family homes, which is a growing problem. But I look forward to budget. The second point I guess I want to put out there is just to ask, what percentage of the capacity of the MRF is going to be used for regional operations? I mean, specifically for the 6 municipalities that are in the regional collection and the 2 other municipalities. Like, how much is actually going to go into that facility?
Yeah, so for the facility operating as a receiving facility, that'll be 90% plus regional material. So all that material, about 40,000 tons a year, will still go to that facility. Where I think some of the changes will occur in what's actually happening on the processing lines as some of that material is then being shipped out to process at other locations. It's there's a little bit of meat on that one in terms of some of the material coming in and then going out as a transfer station operation versus processing. So I think overall we will see less material being processed at the MRF in the long term. But you know,
So we're going to use it less but pay for the full cost.
we're not paying. No, we're not paying anything for the MRF operation. That becomes a producer cost. We're being
That's
paid.
what I want to
paid for
clarify.
yeah.
So are we going to, when we put our material in there, we pay them?
No, after July 1st, we are just a leaseholder. They are paying us for the use of the space. We do not have any contracts with them for processing or transfer.
Maybe it's me, maybe I'm misunderstanding your answer, so I'll ask again. The waste we collect that goes into the MRF, it's collected by Durham Region, it goes to the MRF, gets processed. How much of that makes up the total capacity of the MRF?
So the recycling, just for
Yep.
clarity. So right now it's 100%.
Right?
Post transition, depending on how contracts line, we're looking at still 90% plus of the material going to the MRF being Durham Region.
Okay, now if they own it, we are paying them to put our 90% in?
No, the producer's paying them to put that material there.
All right, so we're not putting any non-recyclable waste in the MRF
No,
at all, not even from the green bins?
no, the green bins go to a separate processing
It's
facility.
separate, okay. And we pay for 100% of that facility?
Yes.
All right, and no one's purchasing any capacity from us?
Sorry, on the green bin?
Yeah, on the green bin processing facility.
So the green bin
that-
processing facility is a privately owned facility. So we're just paying for the processing of our material under a tender. So that material is collected, goes to the transfer station, and then is long haul trucked to the facility for processing.
All right, have we investigated having our own green bin processing facility?
We did, that was the AD mixed waste pre-sort contract. That
was
is,
a slightly different equation. I'm talking about just a green waste processing facility.
so that would be the AD facility. So long term, so with the the cancellation of that procurement, we enacted a short and a long term plan. The short term plan was to go to market for third party processing capacity. That's a 10-year contract starting July 1st. And in that time, we'll be reevaluating the business case for Durham.
Have you projected the costs of the 10-year contract? Compared
Yes.
to the build cost?
Yeah, there was. I mean, at the point where we canceled the procurement, we had to,
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just trying to understand we canceled the build cost because it was more expensive than we thought it would be. What I'm trying to say, now you're telling me you're doing a 10-year contract to buy it from the private sector. So what I'm trying to ask you is, what's the comparison of that 10-year contract's costs as to the build cost would have been? Because if it costs more, how are we saving anything?
I think
just don't know the answer.
I think Ramesh has taken this, but this was at a meeting last year in the summer. But go ahead.
Yeah, last year, through the chair to the councillor, last year when we brought the report to basically cancel the build option and to go on a 10-year short-term contract, there were some figures laid out as to how the two compared and how, like, given the challenges of doing an AD facility, in light of the cost estimate, this was a better option. So I'll have to dig that, I think it was last year or the year before.
Last year, we hadn't signed the 10-year contract yet.
No, but
We projected it. Now we're signing it. So my question is, now that we actually have the actual numbers,
So,
has anything changed?
Brian, I think, actually, you take it, Andrew, because you'll have the facts.
We did get a very good rate on our procurement
That's
for
all I'm
this.
asking for is, we all agree that the build and operate was too expensive.
Right.
I'm not going to be disagrees with that. I just want to know, now that we're at the point where we're entering into the contract, signing it for July 1st, like, tell us what the actual price is.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. Just I want a point of clarification, if you don't mind. Andrew, when did we sign the 10-year contract for the AD?
That was done via a tender process.
Yep.
So that the notice on that went out last summer.
Yep. And when did we
When do we sign it?
when did we sign it, or when did we approve it at council and committee?
I would have to refer that to finance because it was under a tender process.
All right. I'm just trying to get a comparison between
Yeah,
the two.
I know it
Sounds
was a
like
long
good
time
news.
ago. Yeah, go ahead,
yeah, so
Ramesh.
2 points through the chair, like it was a tender, so it didn't have to come back here.
Yep.
But in terms of the comparison, like, if we can get back to you with the numbers, I'll just pull that report back.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking it is it sounds like it's good news. It sounds like we've actually saved considerable funds by going to the tender, but it'd be nice to have that actual number so we can
Yeah.
educate the taxpayers that, we don't always just spend. We actually sometimes find better ways to do things.
Definitely, yeah, we'll get back to you.
All right. And the last question, and I've raised this with Ramesh, so it's no surprise to him. And I'll just put the cards on the table. We have a growing number of residents who are new to Durham Region who are moving into triplexed and duplexed single-family homes. If I buy a home and I move in just one family, the Region of Durham provides me with a nice welcome kit, blue boxes, green bins. If I'm a tenant, I get diddly squat. But I still pay taxes. I'm a resident of Durham. I'm just wondering, as this process evolves, will we get some assurance from the producers that they're going to provide everybody with access to blue box, rather than just single-family homes? Because I've got lots of tenants in my ward who are living in duplex homes now, and they're not getting any assistance on this. They got to reach into their pocket to get it.
I'm going to take this, Andrew.
So I can't speak for the producers under the program, but certainly for our programs at this point, we're only dealing with the property owners as the registered
So
taxpayer.
are we going to collect taxes from the property owners now?
Can you repeat that?
Well,
I
if
didn't
I'm
hear
a
it.
tenant and I move into a legally registered duplex that was converted from a single-family home, I'm not talking the fly-by-nighters, but the ones that actually went through the conversion. When I pay my rent, a portion of that goes towards taxes. So I have two taxpayers in that building, both paying through their rent taxes to Durham Region. But neither one of them is getting this service from Durham Region. But if next door, a person buys the home outright and lives with one family, the region provides them a free service. And I guess the problem I'm having here is, especially in my constituency where 40% of the people are tenants, why do we have this archaic rule that says if you're a property owner, you get it for free. If you're a property lessee, you don't get squat. So that's the
Yeah,
question I'm just trying to put out. I wanted to raise it at committee. I was going to raise it later, but this sounded like an appropriate time to raise it. I think we need to look into that. I think we need to look at why, with the growing number of tenants in our communities, especially in the lower tier parts of Durham Region, many homes being converted to duplexes as of right, we've got a gap that we have to address. And I'd like to see us address it before this goes on and have it then become legacy to the blue box proponents, rather than leaving the gap and then we've got to ask them cap in hand, which I know the answer is going to be no, there's no cost.
Go ahead, Ramesh.
Yeah, through the chair to the council, just to echo the same comments I provided. I think our current system is, it's the landlord's responsibility. Because if the landlord gets a second unit registered, they are entitled to a free bin. And the expectation is that the landlord is going to provide it to the tenant, just like any other utility, right? And if the tenant is approaching the landlord or the previous tenant walks away with the bins, it's really the responsibility of the landlord to purchase bins and then give it to the new tenant. At least that's the current system. You know, like Andrew said, we only communicate with the landlords because they are registered, whereas we don't have a system in terms of like who's leasing the property and so on, right?
If I'm a landlord, if I'm a property owner, and I buy a single-family home, and I convert it into 2 units, which everyone has a legal right to do now, and I'm a landlord, I contact Durham Region, will you provide me with 2 welcome kits?
Yeah, for the same household, we get 2, if they have a second
So there's
unit.
2 households, we get 2 kits.
Exactly.
Okay, that solves the problem. I just want to make sure there's a process where everybody gets a kit, because we want to get that blue box material and green bin and everything into our stream. And if we're missing out on thousands of homes because we don't provide the service, it's something we need to do. We need to have a process to do that. So I just wanted to put that card on the table.
Yeah, I do have a personal experience, like, when I, did a secondary
Yeah,
unit in
talk,
Migby,
yeah.
about 10 years ago, we were automatically allowed 8 bags and 2 more bins. So Andrew, I'm assuming that's still the case, right?
Yep.
All right, so if I get a call from a tenant, I can tell your landlord to call the Durham Region, register the 2 units with Durham Region, and Durham Region through GFL will deliver you your welcome kits. Is that correct?
Is that through GFL?
GFL?
GFL in Oshawa, yeah.
Yeah.
Until June, until the end of
Okay.
June.
Second question, and I'm just trying to understand this. I get this all the time from businesses in my community. Why certain businesses in Durham get a free ride and others who are competing with them are forced to pay through the nose, i.e. the BIA. BIA pays the same tax rate as a business on Park Road South in Oshawa or in Port Arthur, up in Scugog or wherever. Why do those who locate their businesses in the BIA get this free service, but those businesses that are not in the BIA have to pay for it themselves? Like, why are we treating 2 sets of businesses separately?
Through the chair to the councillor, just a legacy, we have about 2,000 small businesses addresses which get this service, like, historically. Like Andrew mentioned, they are going to continue to get that service through CMO until end of 2025. Starting January 1, 2026, it's to be determined as to, for equity reasons that you're citing, are we going to continue that? Who's going to pay for it? So the answer is just a legacy situation. Peter, anything to add?
Correct. Through you, Mr. Chair. When the region assumed waste management collection services back in the early 2000s, the local municipalities were providing these services to their BAAs and in some cases even businesses outside the BAAs as part of a clean streets policy to keep the downtown cores clean. So the region assumed these services, and as Commissioner Ramesh has noted, we will be determining whether post January 1st, 2026, whether that continues or not, and for exactly the reasons you cited. Some businesses are getting the service, some are not. They're all paying the same taxes. Things to consider is this a core service to the region? Our jurisdiction is residential collection. These are not residences. So the continuation of the service is to be determined.
Yeah, the only question I guess I'm putting here is, if I'm a small business, I'm trying to compete and I'm trying to run my business, can I get the same service as my competitor? And at this point, it appears you can't. You have to pay it out of your own pocket. And it's not just waste, it's garbage collection, it's snow clearing. Like certain segments of our communities get a free ride and other sections have to pay for it out of their own pocket. I'm just saying it's patently unfair to ask those businesses outside the BIAs to, in fact, subsidize their competitors. So not only do they have to pick up their costs, they have to pick up a portion through their taxes of their competitors' costs. So I'm raising that again as a red flag that our system should always be based on equity, no one area or one group or one factor should benefit when the others don't get it. Because I would suggest there's far more businesses now outside the BIA in most of our communities than are inside the BIA.
Okay.
I'll just leave that out there as a red flag again, that have staff think about it. Thank you.
And before you go, Vice Chair, we do have a speakers list. I'm just going to respond to that, just from a small town mayor with a BIA. If we want strong downtowns, and those are the core of our communities, for many of these smaller downtowns, they're not set up for giant waste bins. There's nowhere to put bins, and really the only option for waste collection and recycling and things like that is curbside pickup. So there's pros and cons to being, a bigger box location with lots of owned parking and lots of areas for bins. Sometimes, if we want strong downtowns, we have to help them out. We have to give them a helping hand, because without our small downtowns, we lose our sense of identity. And again, we could debate after, Councillor Nicholson, but you and I don't agree on this, and that's okay. But let's keep on this piece.
Just to be clear, I'm not opposing providing it to the BIA. What I'm saying is, if you're going to provide it to the BIA, provide it to the others as well. And I'm just saying, we've got to make sure that our system is equitable. It can't be that some get it and some don't. That's all I'm saying. I don't oppose in any way providing specific services to areas where they physically can't provide an alternative. But if I have a similar situation in another part of the community, then we have to look at ways to provide that service there as well. So that's all I'm saying. Just not just abandoning them to their own devices. That's all.
Fair enough. And again, it's a slippery slope, because then all of a sudden we're doing curbside pickup for GM, which would get complicated. Anyway, let's talk about that in the back room.
But we do, thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, let's go with Councillor Yamada. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff, when we talk about reporting, report data required for RFPRA to assess if the program performance targets are being met, what kind of reporting are we going to see here? Because at the end of the day, the service that's being provided to the taxpayer, we're still going to have to answer for it and answer for this decision.
I don't know if we've seen sample reports yet come out. We know the producers have to report. I don't know whether they'll be reporting province-wide or if they'll be reporting within the specific catchment areas at this point.
Are you hearing anything? You said this is starting to happen in other municipalities. Are you hearing or any other jurisdictions? What kind of reporting do they see in terms of best practices?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Under the Act, producers are responsible to capture a percentage of materials by weight of materials that they put into the province, into the market in Ontario, and they have to report to RIPRA on the material that they're capturing on an annual basis. Right now, we're still in a transition area period. RIPRA is an enforcement and a registrar, sort of like TSSA and Real Estate Council of Ontario. They are the enforcer of the province's legislations, and the producers are accountable to RIPRA. So starting July 1st, 2026, there'll be full accounting of the materials that they capture through the program compared to the materials they put into the market. And there will be AMPs and penalties if they are built into the legislation already if the producers don't meet these requirements.
But wouldn't that information be public information that we sort of would be seeing here as well?
Under the legislation, RIPRA does make this. They'll have an annual report, we have access to the annual report that RIPRA puts out.
And so we'll be seeing reports coming through to show the success of this program, because if we're getting out of this business and we're making the decision to get out of the business, the accountability still will come to us. We want to be able to talk to taxpayers and say, look, this is working and here's why it's working and here's the success we're seeing.
Correct. We will be receiving those reports, and those reports will be put out through RIPRA. That exact mechanism already exists with the other programs. So we get reports for batteries, we get reports for hazardous waste, we get reports for electronics and tires, and this process will now pass on to also a Blue Box program. So it will be the same sort of reporting process that already exists for the other EPR programs.
Okay. In terms of the changes to battery collection, particularly in Whitby and Oshawa, can you speak a little bit more to that?
Well, the challenge we have right now is that the batteries used to be collected through in conjunction with the Blue Box program. We no longer have that option to us after July 1st. So we are looking at options. We have started discussions with that a while ago with Whitby and Oshawa staff to see if there are possibilities of other ways of collecting the batteries. A large portion of the batteries we do collect. Obviously, Whitby and Oshawa is a significant population of Durham, so they're big contributors to the program. So we would like to see if there are ways of continuing that program. So we're still in those discussions. We're still looking at options.
But if it's producer responsibility, how will the producer at the end of the day be responsible for that collection?
So the battery program already transitioned.
Okay, sorry about that.
That transitioned a couple of years ago. We get paid for the batteries we collect. Got it. So we have, as a municipality, we took the steps of providing a curbside program as an efficient and effective way of collecting as many batteries as possible. Alternative ways of collecting batteries are through our waste management facility drop-off programs. There are return to retail programs, but we've seen through the years of having this curbside program. I remind members of committee that we do have a world record for the most batteries collected through this program. It's a very effective program, way of keeping batteries out of the DYC. And because we want to keep the batteries out of the DYC, not burn these batteries, we feel it incumbent on us to do what we can to maximize that. And the best way to do that is through a curbside battery program.
Will there be, through the transition, or once it's fully transitioned, will there be any new costs to the end user, to the taxpayer?
Not to the taxpayer. What happens through most of these EPR programs is that the cost of the program gets passed on the price of the products.
Okay.
So in some cases, there are visible user fees. So if you buy tires these days, you buy electronics. There's a hazardous waste. You go and buy batteries at the store. There's a little additional line for the EPR program. And the Blue Box program, we anticipate there will be costs that the producers will borne onto the products, the cost of the products. They will not be visible costs, but they will be just another cost of doing business, like fuel, labor, anything else that will be included in the price of the product.
Okay, and my last question, if we're transitioning out of this program, will there be opportunities to reorganize any internal staff here at the region or lose jobs due to attrition?
We've already looked at that, and there will be no attrition and no loss of jobs. Our focus is transferring from the Blue Box program into an enhanced organics program. We're also looking at a green bin program for our multi-residential sector, which is a growing sector of the community. So there is a growing need, ever-growing need for waste management services. So there is no loss of jobs or attrition because of these EPR programs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go, Councillor Crawford, you're next, but second round for you. So we'll go to Chair Henry first, if that's okay.
Thank you, Chair. Just, Andrew, I'm interested in your comment on the return to retailer for battery purchases. One would think that if you're getting a battery for a car or a truck, that you would be taking a battery back at the same time. Why wouldn't it just be simply return all batteries to retailers?
I think sometimes people, buy them in bulk and they have them, in storage for, a number, until the collection. Certainly car batteries, we do still see at the WMFs, although they could be returned to retailer in that case. I think it does come down to convenience, with people knowing now, twice a year, they have the ability to just set the bag out at the curb. People do participate in that. And so we've seen the consistent numbers in collection that we have despite kind of the advancement of those other programs. So it's convenient, people are using it. We'd be a little bit concerned in losing some of those numbers if it just went back to a straight return to retail program.
So I know that in this building, we have battery recycling receptacles, I think on every floor or in the building. I think that process works very well. If there was a kiosk outside of Box Store X where you buy these things and people are walking in, I think that they would simply do what we do here in this building. And then has there been ever any thought given to the battery units that we hear being made available for large employers? So for example, you take a large office tower, doesn't matter where, 500 employees walk through the door and in the corner there's a battery receptacle. So those AA's and AAA batteries, I don't think people use very many D's and C's anymore, but that there's a place to go, the same where you can drop a cell phone.
So that would fall under that producer responsibility program. And certainly we have seen them into those buildings. I think especially in other jurisdictions that don't necessarily have that collection program. So that is one approach as well. I don't know, Peter, do you know offhand if the batteries are meeting their targets? So, and there is targets for, collection across the province for the number of batteries versus what was put into the market, and they are meeting their targets.
Thank you, and Chair, this has been a huge AMO issue for a long time, so special thank you to Councillor Crawford and Councillor McCaughey for continuing to work on producer responsibilities at the AMO level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Councillor Crawford.
AMO, I remember one of my very first meetings there, they were talking about how the end-use producer were discussing like a surcharge on product because of the costs of this program, or a return program where you take your Coke cans back to a certain location and you get, I don't know, 5 cents a can. It would supplement my husband's income. He drinks a lot of Coke. But is that still a possibility happening?
So one of the pros for the Beverage Association did talk about that bottle fee, I believe about this time last year. I think that's been largely walked back at this point.
Okay.
There was a bit of public outcry over it. And then certainly, the deposit system is something that's continually talked about as a potential opportunity. But really it's, especially now as transition's getting closer, we're really starting to lose sight on some of this because the conversations are happening with municipalities to the same sense that they're now happening with producer responsible organizations.
Right. So Councillor Nicholson brought up about how residents question about, why aren't we pushing the savings back to them? But I think what I've been saying is with the expansion of the green bin, that will reduce the garbage, which will decrease the possibility of having to increase the incinerator down the road, which would cost a lot more money than what they would possibly see in a savings of whatever, right? So that's the whole purpose for all of this, is to expand the green bin and to be able to reduce garbage, right?
Yeah, certainly more and more, the waste management is acting as an entire system. So there's a set amount of material. It's trying to get it aligned into the right streams as best we can,
Right.
and then looking at the relative value of those streams and how we best manage each one of them.
So for residents that come from different municipalities to live in Durham region, so for instance in Toronto, I believe they just kind of throw everything into one bin and it just gets picked up and off you go, right? I don't know if it's that simple. It's probably not that simple because they have a pre-sort or whatever, right?
No, so they
Okay.
still have 3 stream, but their recycling is a single stream, so they don't have the separate.
Oh, paper and one. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know I often when I get residents report people not doing things right at the curb, the region is great about going out and just educating people because that's all it is they come from a different place that has different rules and they don't always know. I didn't know anything about a welcome. Do you do welcome kits?
So when there's a new resident, they can call the Waste Management Center,
okay.
and we
Okay.
provide kit.
Yeah. All right. No. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. Just one question from here, just to make sure there's no confusion. If Durham Region decided not to go this direction, with the producers being responsible for recycling, could we?
No. So the only
I just wanted to make sure that was extremely clear.
the only real decision we had, whether it was to operate the collection program via the region still. So it would be us holding the, it would be us kind of holding the contract with SEMO and then subcontracting to the collection agencies, and that wasn't something that was really viewed as viable.
Right. So the decision that we made was to make this transition as smooth as possible as we release this responsibility.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Again, thanks for all the hard work on this piece. I'm extremely proud of the work that we do to keep items out of our waste stream. So thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Again, thanks for the excellent discussion, committee. Appreciate it. All right, we don't have any waste reports at this point. Just a second. I'm learning technology here. So we're down to 8.2A. This is report 2024 W3 in regards to, what's that? Move both reports, seconded by Councillor Marin Pietri. Questions or comments on those reports? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? That is carried, thanks. All right, so any other business? Councillor Marin Pietri. Oh, one sec. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just under other business, wanted to ask, we talked about advisories today, and we have control over water bills, and in this case, we have waste. Just wondering if there's, for example, an anniversary of a municipality or of a major entity within the municipality, a cultural entity, being, say, for example, Folk Arts, it turns 50 years this year. Wondering if there's an ability for us to be able to put an advisory into the water bills throughout the region, because this is a multicultural organization. It's 50 years old. We talk about diversity oftentimes, and I know that our diversity team here does a great job of working within the community to do everything possible to make sure that the region's represented. I think there's no better way than to, through you, Mr. Chair, seek an understanding through staff as to how we can put an advisory, just a little slip in there that welcomes people to the second oldest cultural festival of its kind in the country. I think Caribana's just, we always argue about it. Caribana's a little bit older, but if you look at our mandate and some of the letters of incorporation of the Folk Arts Council, it took different names over the last number of years, and I think you could argue that Fiesta Week is older than Caribana, but that's not the point. The point is, it would be nice to be able to include some information in our water bill or whatever form of advisory that we have, whether it's our tax bill, whatever the case is, to welcome people to the 50th anniversary of Fiesta Week, which is a Caribana-like festival, actually more extensive. And it's a week-long festival celebrating multiculturalism in our region. It takes place in Oshawa, and it's 50 years old this year. I'm just wondering, through you to staff, if we can have that conversation.
Through the chair, yes, Councillor, let me talk to finance and communications and understand, what channels, including the water bill. Probably get back to you.
Excellent. I know that the city of Oshawa's 100th anniversary this year, but we have control over, making that sort of public and media sort of relations play. But it's the smaller entities, and in this case, a very important one, as Oshawa's, very culturally diverse, but the region as a whole is one that is very metropolitan. So I want to make sure that that's not missed, and that we offer any opportunity possible to be able to afford the Folk Arts Council that essentially promotes Fiesta Week, that ability to be able to put that information out, to welcome all residents across the region to come out and enjoy that festival.
So we have Nancy's face popped up on my screen. So go ahead, Nancy.
So if I may, through the chair, and thank you very much for the question. We actually, from a paper circulation standpoint, have been dramatically cutting that back. So we now have about 57,000 customers that are online and don't receive paper bills. And the rest is not uniform. As you know, not everybody is on the water system. There are some areas, even in Oshawa, that there's still wells and septic. So we don't actually have a universal way of reaching out, and we don't put inserts in every water bill. So if we were already doing it certainly it would never have been an issue to, add a quarter of a page to what's already being done. But we have been shrinking that back dramatically. So the opportunity really isn't there in a paper format. But certainly, I think Ramesh's comment of reaching out through communications through a lot of electronic formats would be something that would be worth considering, absolutely. But we actually are shrinking back our footprint from a paper standpoint very dramatically.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So let's say hypothetically you have 60,000 that are not on the paper trail anymore. It still leaves quite a bit in terms of households throughout the region.
Sorry, through the chair, you'd probably have shy of 100,000 households throughout the region that would get that message. But again, we don't actually do inserts to the water bills on every billing cycle anymore. So that would mean that we would actually have to pay to create an insert and insert it, and if there is extra postage. So it would be different, certainly in my days as at the local, where the tax bill inserts would go every time. We would often reach out to the organization and say, we have a quarter of a page free. Is there something that you would like us to add on? But in this case, if we're not putting any inserts in, then it would be an additional cost where we'd have to generate an insert and deal with the issues around that. So the opportunity is very, very limited.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can we look at what the opportunity is for, because I think we have a number of billing cycles between now and June. I would appreciate us looking into it more definitively. I understand that this could take work and essentially some resources, but I do believe that if there are billing opportunities with an insert, I'm just putting it out there. The region of Durham does everything possible to communicate that diversity is important. There's no bigger play in the region than this festival, and I would appreciate us looking into this if we're intent and serious about promoting multicultural diversity. Thank you.
So if I may, through the chair, we could also reach out to all of the local municipalities that do the tax bill inserts, because they would be mailing in May if the hope is to reach. So perhaps we can do a combination thing, but as Ramesh referenced, perhaps Ramesh in communications and I can chat about what alternatives are available.
So I'm wondering if we can take this as direction to staff to look at options to communicate this festival and other cultural festivals in the future through existing inserts in paper and digital communications to our residents. Is that fair? Just to make sure we don't waste opportunity. Our vice chair has his finger up. Give me a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't the middle finger. It was the.
Thanks for clarifying.
It was the number one. I really appreciate Commissioner Taylor's response, as well as your intent to direct staff to do so. Wouldn't have brought up any other entity. This one here in particular, it's 50 years, very important, and more so, I just wanted to seek understanding of what the direction and the timing to come back, because it is approaching, and I know that we're in the new year, but it is approaching, and I do want to provide some feedback to the organization who's asked to have this initiative brought forward to Regional Council. So just through you to Commissioner Taylor and to staff, if we can get some information back as soon as possible, so that I can provide the report to the organization, so that they can make provisions necessary to accommodate this as well. Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem. Okay, next we've got Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as a sidebar to Councillor Martry and Ms. Taylor's comments, I had a number of bills I used to get by paper, and when I agreed to transfer them electronically, they gave me a 5% cut in my bill every month, because they found it was cheaper to give me that than it was to keep processing the paper bills. Maybe that's something that we could look at, especially on water bills. That if we give people a small savings, they might sign up for electronic, and then that'll save us long-term costs down the road. But the question I wanted to raise, and is getting to be a major concern, is the lack of accessible transfer stations in the southern half of the city of Oshawa. To now take your waste from my community along the lakeshore to the transfer station on Richardson Road North is a minimum 1/2 hour drive each way. We actually have more people transferring to Whitby, to their private sector transfer station, that are going to the region's transfer station. I've raised this before, and I'll raise it again. As the municipalities in Durham grow further north, all the transfer stations are on the northern edges of the urban area. Those in the more traditional southern communities, it's virtually impossible to get to a transfer station without a massive drive through traffic. And we're seeing a lot of growth of people just dumping the material in creek valleys and beachfronts and things like this. I'm wondering if the staff could look at the potential of either partnering with the local tier or partnering with the private sector to provide a transfer station or a mini transfer station in the southern parts of our communities so that people don't have to drive literally an hour back and forth to dump $5 worth of waste. I wonder if staff could, is that something they could look at?
Yes, we can, through the chair. Also, just looking to Andrew, was this addressed in the long-term waste management plan? Because that has a lot of recommendations. Andrew, please.
You're on here. Oh, just a second.
There we
Now
go.
you're on. Oh, now you're off.
No, I think I'm
Okay, you're
still on.
back.
So, no, we do recognize, so we have, 3 waste management facilities servicing the entire region right now. There is a network of private sector coverage as well that we don't have any interaction with. They're operating on a for-profit basis. We are looking at potential other locations. I think certainly, we would first probably have to look, west and east, because really the only southern transfer station waste management facility we have is in Oshawa. The other 2 are, Scugog just outside of Port Perry, and then up in the northern reaches of Brock. So, that is something we're looking at. Obviously, there's significant capital investment and permits required to put those facilities in place. But it is something we're looking at. But it would be a longer term initiative.
Yeah. I'm not looking at a transfer station similar to the one on Richardson Road South, which is huge. Even if it's just a couple of bins where people can drop their waste and then they get transferred up to that station, would make the process easier. Right now, I'm getting lots of complaints from multi-residential operators that their waste disposal bins have become our transfer stations. That people are driving up and they're dumping them on their properties. And that they're end up seeing their amount of capacity going up 50, 60, 70% a year, but the number of units hasn't gone up. So they're desperately trying to find some kind of solution. I know personally myself, and I don't want to speak for myself here, I go to the private sector transfer station in Whitby on Wentworth Street East in Whitby, because it's a lot closer than driving, for an hour there and back to the Richardson Road. And I know a lot of people do that. And all I'm saying is we need to look at other options to collect this waste, because if you talk to our local maintenance divisions, the amount of waste we're pulling out of our creek valleys, the amount of waste we're pulling out of our beachfronts, are dumped in our parks, it's increasing exponentially. It's because people just will not make that drive through that distance and all that traffic there and back to dump 2 or 3 bags or to dump a little bit of household furniture, I think we just need to look creatively at what we can do to provide an ancillary service to our current transfer stations so that we don't end up spending 3 times as much taxpayers' money collecting it from a creek valley that we could have had if we had just had a waste disposal bin sitting out on the street level where people could just drop it off. So I'm raising it under other business so that staff could take a look at it, see what's possible. I've talked to other councillors, and it's not just Oshawa, it's happening in Bowmanville, it's happening, and I'm sure it's happening in Whitby, I'm sure it's happening Ajax and Pickering as well. As the distance to transfer stations gets further and further, it's making it hard to access them. So I'll leave it with you in your good graces. Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I do have a meeting with my public works counterparts in local municipalities. I'll see if there are some local depot locations, where we can try and pilot something jointly to see how it works.
Well, I offer you the one at Weber Street in Nelson. There's a large empty lot. We could put a couple of bins there, no problem. Or the one for the private sector on Wentworth and Whitby. If we had a couple of bins out in the front there, and we just cleaned them up every couple of days and drove them up, it might solve a lot of problems of being dumped in the interim in the communities.
I'll talk to Mike Sonny.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, and just a model to look at, maybe, Andrew, is just south of Parry Sound. They have a 24-hour option for their cottagers and people like that. But 24 hours, you can drop off a bag or two in a fairly small chute. Video surveillance. They have things, compactors there, and it's a pretty smooth transition. So I think it's the municipality of Seguin.
Clean them up,
Yeah, and some municipalities, especially smaller ones, do not offer curbside collection. They offer the depot service. So I'm not sure if that one in particular is one, or
That
or
would be
there's-
one for
or
sure.
where they're servicing seasonal residences a lot because the waste is generated really over the weekend.
Yeah.
It's certainly something we can look at.
Yeah, in Uxbridge, we spend about $150,000 a year picking up truckloads of waste dropped off on side roads. So that would pay for a fair bit of,
We spend over $1 million.
yeah, so it adds up fairly quickly. Next, we've got Chair Henry.
There you go.
So thank you, Chair Barton. So April in Canada is Community Cleanup Month. So if we could contemplate trying to get some of the advertising out when community cleanup and picking up garbage is the focus of an entire month in April, that might help with this process. And it's my hopes that the waste that is picked up is still picked up and dealt with in the appropriate manners. The second question, and it's really a question of enforcement. We have a number, if you drive on some of our rural roads, you'll see that somebody has dropped off a load of shingles, or they create problems or throw a couch or that stuff. From an enforcement part, is it possible to have an idea of the number of enforcements that have taken place in the course of a year? Are we making sure that bad behavior is rewarded with the appropriate level of response? Holding people accountable, for example, you throw a load of garbage out on the side of the road, it goes to the transfer station, we find the name, that individual is held accountable and sent a message of good citizenship and participation.
I'll refer that back to Peter.
Through you, Mr. Chair, certainly we do those enforcements, and where we do find mail or correspondence, we do follow up. Initially, we'll provide a letter. If we see repeat infractions, we have done prosecutions. If we find sharp materials like glass or syringes, that's an automatic fine. With the issue with, as you mentioned, shingles and couches, by the time we get there, we log the incident, and we do a cleanup, but it's nearly impossible to find out who put it there. A lot of these times they're side of roads, construction sites, ditches, where there are no cameras. So finding people there is impossible. But where we do find correspondence, we do follow up, and we can provide that data.
It's important in today's age that the easy thing to do is a costly thing to do, and that we need to hold people accountable. Thank you, Chair.
Hey, thank you very much. Okay, we've got one more person on the speaker list. Go ahead, Tim.
Chair, I'll be quick. Just wanted to give a heads up as other business to staff and thank them for the work they're doing on Thornton and at the Rose Valley Community Park area there between Deer Valley and Dryden. And speaking to a number of residents both on the Whitby site as well as the Oshawa side, there are obvious concerns with respect to the signalization that's required. I know that we've looked at putting a full signalization at Deer Valley, which I'm understanding doesn't meet the requirement. So in speaking also to some Whitby councillors, that there could be a play for a full signalization at Dryden, which would be helpful to both municipalities, because in large part, the issue that we're incurring is anyone that's turning left going north at Dryden is impacted in terms of safety, and I think that being an area that's not solely residential, but that connects with Dryden throughout the two municipalities, it would be prudent and also intelligent for us to look at a full signalization there and potentially move forward with what the region offered is a partial signalization at Deer Valley to facilitate the park. Point in saying this is that I didn't want to blindside through you, Mr. Chair, staff, that we're looking at moving in this direction. And furthermore, we have to move in this direction to take a look at how we can facilitate that area with better safety provision, because the residential component there, crossing to the park and utilizing the space is one that I'm concerned with. And I know that we're working closely, both municipalities, and then now bringing also the concerns of Whitby residents and motorists into the play. A lot of the folks that are utilizing some of the park space there, upon completion, are neighboring residents in the Whitby municipality. So we want to make sure that we're respectful of their safety provisions as well. So just nothing to be able to to report or request at this point. Just information through you, Mr. Chair, that I'd like to reconnect with the commissioner and staff to see how we can make this provision a possibility, because it is about safety. Thank you.
Okay, I see no further hands for other business. The date of our next meeting is March the 6th at 9:30. Is that a motion to adjourn? Excellent. Seconded by Councillor Mulcahy. All in favor? Thank you very much.